Hello, it is Tara Boothby, registered psychologist in Alberta and British Columbia. And today I'm going to talk about one of the most important parts of attachment theory, love science, love energy, and that is parenting. I love talking about parenting. It's one of my main focuses of research and interest. And of course, it is what got me really landing into the love science and love energy theories of discovery. So recently on our Sojourn Psychology social media, we posted a post. I'm always curious about those posts that seem to get a little extra attention. And this is what it says. So we're all imperfect parents, and that's perfectly okay. Tiny humans need connection, not perfection. Connection and not perfection. Wowzers, right? I mean, as a mother, I feel that feeling of the urgency to get it perfect, to get it better, best, awesome, to try and make no mistakes for my kids. And then no matter how hard I try, I'm a human. So obviously I don't get it all right all the time. The other thing is that the world out there doesn't get it all right all the time for our kids. Our kids have their own worlds, their own lives, and the more they age, the more they have unique experiences that some we find out about and some we don't. So what do we do as parents? Now, the struggle for some people when they start to look into attachment-based parenting is we're really not about a how-to. There's not a list of check boxes and behavioral strategies that a parent is going to do to be the perfect parent. Attachment-based parenting, especially through the circle of security lens, is about really being with, being available. Circle of security will say that the parent is bigger, stronger, wiser, and kind. That is the parent position. Well, that's a lot to get slow with and philosophize with and try to understand rather than figure out what to do. Are you hearing my bias starting to show up here? A lot of good parenting is not about having a strategy book. There's a place for that, and I'll land into where I see the places for the how-tos. I get frustrated when clinically and as a human, we put the how-to book of what it means to do parenting before we put the heartfelt understanding of what it means to sink into being a parent. The more I can be a parent, the more I can be with my child. The more I can be me in all my flawed and fabulousness, the better able I am to understand those times when I'm losing my footing, when I'm feeling wobbly in my parenting. Understanding those wobbly moments, those times when we're struggling internally, is really, really key to getting into the zone with parenting. I'm trying to watch my language because it's not really about being the best parent or the best version of ourselves either. It's about being in the fullness of our humanity and still being in charge of this little life that we care more about than any other life. Yeah, so we're imperfect people holding one of the most important jobs, which is parenting, and we want to do it perfectly. And some people will try to tell us that there is a way to do perfect parenting, but there just really isn't. From an emotionally focused family therapy point of view, we talk about accessibility, responsiveness, and emotional engagement. Well, we're really trying to help parents to understand or experience how to embody better language, how to be accessible. Am I accessible to my child? Am I emotionally responsive to my child? Am I responsive to their thoughts and their world? Am I holding space where response can occur? And am I emotionally engaged? So as they're expressing their emotions, am I checking my wobbly stuff, my anger, my offense, my whatever it is, my pride, so that I can find a softer place inside of me to be more emotionally engaged, to hold space for my child's emotions, big or small, ugly or beautiful. All emotions are welcome inside of us. And the more we understand that, the more we can provide a space where all of our children's emotions are welcome, ugly or beautiful. Now, I say ugly or beautiful because all emotions are natural. There's no real bad feelings, just as there's no real good feelings. Some feelings are more enjoyable, and other feelings we wrestle with, and they don't feel great. It doesn't feel great to feel sad or angry or shame or like it's not a real feeling, but like a loser. Those things don't feel great. But emotions are motion, as the somatic people would say. And if we have people who can come alongside of us in those ugly emotional places without trying to force us to feel better or rejecting us based on those feelings, then we can find a way to know that those feelings belong just as much as the others. And again, parenting is so much about knowing that my frustration, my anger, my stonewalling, or my flooding, my anxiety, all the things that can feel ugly in myself are feelings. And if I deny those feelings, if I suppress those feelings, I can't be accessible. I can't be responsive, and I can't be emotionally engaged with my child. So I need to see my feelings so that I can discover the ways that I can facilitate and be the bigger, stronger, wiser, and kind person for my child. Stronger, wiser, other for my child, as Bowlby would say. So then what do we do here? I think that part of providing that space, and I forget the guy that we give credit to for the term being with, it's often used in attachment focused parenting, and just with love energy. Love energy is all about being with. Being with is the space where corrective epiphany occurs. If I don't figure out how to be with, then that those moments of epiphany may or may not occur, but I definitely will not notice them. And if I am not noticing those being with moments, the likelihood of my child to be able to notice those being with moments is lessened. So love energy is not always easily measurable, but it's not about being measured. The love energy a parent provides for their child is more about authentic moving in, or being there, being there so that being with can happen. How about that? Because if I'm doing those things, then I'm helping my child to have a better interpretation of what good love energy feels like. And the more my child understands what good love energy feels like, the more my child can provide good love energy in relationship with other people, the better able my child is to cultivate love energy based relationships. And the better able my child, if I can be there for them in the good times as much as the bad times, when their ugly feelings are showing up, if I can be available. And then my child is learning that they can be more available for those ugly feeling moments for themselves when they feel flawed. And the more they can be there for their times where they feel flawed, the more that they can be there for others in those times as well. This is really what attachment focused parenting is about. And you can see it's not easy. It's a mindfulness, it's a heartfeltness. It is a be here now thing. And it is very contemplative. It takes courage to step into the fullness of our humanity, especially in parenting, because parenting activates our attachment system in one of the most profound ways. And we do see attachment in terms of life and death, because we were all somebody's baby, and we were all infants who needed to figure out how to be in connection with our caregiver so that we could stay alive. So of course we see our parenting position in terms of life and death. And I am heartbroken to think of any harm that comes towards my child. So I empathize greatly with other parents who, of course, don't want harm to come to their children. So what do we do? What do we do? How do we harvest the plentifulness of this love energy based parenting? And these are some of the things that I notice. So number one is being available, being in proximity, creating spaces where we're with our children. That availability is so important, to the point where if we are in the room and we are distracted by our phones, is the biggest one. There's going to be so much research out there about what it's like for a child to look over and see a parent zoning out into their phone. I think it's as detrimental as the old still face research, where a mother would show no activation. But we want to take some time to be available, sitting beside our child while they're doing homework, even if we're doing our own homework. My son was doing math and English on his little Chromebook, sitting beside me while I was doing my own homework. My daughter is doing math, and I'm sitting beside her reading the book that I am doing for whatever curricular sort of learning that I'm doing. But I'm available, and I'm joining in the same activity. That's something. Actually playing a game with them or watching a movie, doing bedtimes as long as they'll allow us, honoring holding space, and seeing that when they move into proximity to us, sometimes they're just like looking to be near, but those are the moments when potential conversation, connection can occur. Being available, and also providing physical uh, assurance, hugs, ruffling of the hair, whatever is appropriate. A punch on the shoulder. Boys, there's research, little boys need wrestling. Oh my word, my son needs to be wrestled by his dad sometimes. It's really good for their healthy development. Finding ways to meet our children in that available space, and in the space availability to be curious, that we can be curious and inquisitive, that we want to find ways to ask questions, to keep them on the edge of their window of tolerance, to understand what's going on, to know a little bit more. It's more than just saying, how was your day? How was school today? How did the hockey game go? Oh, did you have a good time at your friend's house? It's being more creative with our curiosity, not just asking out of robotic, uh, almost required obligation. I should ask something, or if I ask, then maybe you'll tell me the great big thing. Kids need more than that, especially as they age. Saying, how was school today, gets old, and eventually that's where the fine answers really start to occur, because kids want us to be more than inquisitive, but to be curious. Are you just asking me this because you have to, or are you asking me to find out something? Do you really want to know? Of course, that's the way we all feel in relationship. I don't just want questions asked. I want people to be curious about who I am, to really want to know who I am. And then when we're curious and we're in that availability that we've created, to be interested, whatever a child brings forward, if I'm mindfully present, I'm being curious, as their little answers show up, I can be more interested. I can be more curious, or I can hold their answers in my mind, and then I can think more thoughts to try to lead us forward into some space. Wow, I wonder how that felt. Or I wonder how that was for your little friend that had that sad thing happen. It's pretty hard to understand what's going to happen next. Hey, trying to figure out in their interest, what do you think we should do about that? How do you think we should try and help you do better in math? What do you think might work so that we can figure out a way for you to keep your bedroom cleaner? So being interested and not imposing. If I say to my kids, even though my kids are still school age, this is how it's going to be, my daughter in particular is like, no, that's not going to happen. But when she comes to me and she says, I think that this is how it should be, it could be the exact same thing that I've said, but it's hers. It's like, well, that might be a really good idea. If that's the boundary you feel you need to make, I could see how you would come to that place. These are little people with little minds, with little ambitions, with little worlds. And we are in charge of them. But when we put all the emphasis on being in charge, it really can distract us from how are we accessible, responsive, and emotionally engaged? How are we balancing out the need to be wiser, stronger, other, the availability, the holding space for those curious conversations. When we put solution before relationship, I think that we really, really run the risk of damaging parenting. I don't think that the goal is to read all of the how-to books before we read or before we really start to discover what does it mean to be with the gift of nothing. In no thing, what can occur when we're holding things lightly, and then we're seeing the places where we can press in to cultivate more relationship, more understanding, more awareness for ourselves and for our kids. So my bias and what I really believe is the truth is good parenting puts the relationship with our child before the solutions of all of the wonderful skills. Now I'll tell you, I think because of my view, I'm better at putting the relationship and the theory first. And so then I do need to look into some of the skills on ideas, or I do need to talk to some of my colleagues who are more behavioralist to give me suggestions. But the suggestions, the behavioral strategies, those sort of rules for parenting only work within relationships where parents are accessible, responsive, and emotionally engaged, where we are really holding the relationship before we are holding any sort of expectation of ourselves or our child. Yeah. So I applaud all of you parents. It's not easy. And I oftentimes have to remind myself that it's okay to applaud myself and to feel good about those times when I win. And to also notice the times when the relationship is just so, so sweet and I get it. So when you get it as a parent and you feel so good inside of yourself, please get slow and please take the win. Noticing the parenting wins is really helpful for us to continue to move forward and be the great parents that we are able to be. Good enough parents. The goal is good enough parents. Good enough parenting is great parenting. Okay, guys, peace and love, and we'll see you next time. Bye.